We're going to take you, man.
I appreciate it.
The Baltimore Ravens select Teddy Buchanan.
How would you feel coming out to Baltimore and blocking for Lamar Jackson?
Man, that should be an honor, coach.
The NFL hates what the Baltimore Ravens are trying to pull off. With the 2025 NFL Draft just concluding, it seems that the Baltimore Ravens are on a mission. This is a mission, not a small-time thing. They are on a mission to right all the wrongs of the 2024 season where the defense let them down. For most of the season, they had the worst pass defense in the NFL, and they ended up at 27th. And as dominant as this defense has been over the last several years, they were not ones for creating turnover. So I think that during the draft, the Ravens have brought in pieces and drafted guys to rectify that problem. So what we're going to do here today is recap what the Ravens have done throughout this draft. And if you saw me the first day, I was not completely happy at all. It is what it is. I'm just not one for taking safeties in the first round because you can find talented safeties elsewhere. But the Ravens went out and got their guy in Malachi Starks. That was the guy that they had targeted this whole entire time. I said I don't like the pick. It's not about the player, but you have to respect the team that goes and sticks to their guns and gets what they want. And that's the one thing that I've always thought about the Ravens. Go get the guy that you want. And I guess in this year's draft, that's exactly what they did in the first round. Then in the second round, the Ravens took a chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
It's not one that I thought that I would see in my lifetime, but the Ravens took a chance on a player that had some allegations, didn't have the cleanest pass, but they took a chance and saw the production over the principle. And a lot of Ravens fans aren't happy about this. They're like, hey, you guys said one thing, now you're doing something else. And if this has always been the case, we have missed out on a lot of talented guys because of this quote unquote standard that has not been there. But we can't live in the past. We are going forward, and the Ravens went out and got edge Mike Green from Marshall, who was a terror in college football last season. And I think that this is another addition that is going to help the Ravens create turnovers. It's going to create that pass rush that they have been sorely missing with the one-on-ones. Not schematically, not drawn up, not dialed up pressure, not blitzes. A guy that can beat his man.
Pause.
And get to the quarterback. So talent-wise, for the first two picks, they knocked it out the park. Regardless, if it is a position that you believe the Ravens should have went after, they went out and brought in more talent. That's all that we can ask, is for them to go in and bring in guys that are talented and are going to make a difference. That's all that I've ever wanted. I don't want projects. I don't want guys that you have to wait on, that you have to develop. You don't know what you're getting from them, most notably during the first two rounds of the draft. But when you start to get into the later rounds, I don't have an issue with developmental talent. It's when you have those picks that are supposed to be home runs, starters from day one. You can't go out there and say, well, we'll see what we can get with him, and hopefully he'll do what we thought he could do when we drafted him. And that takes us to pick number 3 in round 3. Now, there were only 3 times that I can think of in this draft that I was a little bit disappointed, that I was like, yeah, I'm starting to have flashbacks to the old Ravens and their drafting processes. But for the most part, I think that they righted a lot of wrongs. But the third round pick for me was the one that hit home because it brought back memories of we were oh so close in getting the guy that I believe the Ravens were going after, the guy that I wanted in Wyatt Millum. He is a guard that has a projection that he could possibly play tackle. And I know a lot of people aren't that high on him because he has short arms. Well, Rashawn Slater with the Chargers has short arms too, and that's why he fell a little bit in the draft. But I think he's a Pro Bowler. He might even have an All-Pro. Let's stop looking at certain intangibles and look at the player and see if they can play. But it's neither here nor there. He is now a Jacksonville Jaguar, and the Ravens took Emory Jones Jr. SEC kid, played football at the highest level. He may be a project because we're moving him from tackle to guard. I at the time thought, because I didn't know what the Ravens were going to do going forward, that he could possibly be that swing tackle that we have been looking for. But they may primarily put him at guard, let him develop there, and to me that is immediate competition for the right or the left. So with the first 3 picks, the Ravens went out and upgraded their talent so far. But I ain't gonna hold you, I was still a little bit salty about that Wyatt Millum pick. And that was the first of the 3 times that I was like, Then in the 4th round, the Ravens drafted linebacker Teddy Buchanan. A lot of people on Twitter I saw were not really happy about this pick, but to me, I'm like, hey, he's a coverage linebacker. That is something that we are sorely missing on this squad. We don't know what the Ravens or how they actually feel about Trenton Simpson. I think they may give him one more year to see if he can be that guy next to Roquan Smith. If not, they're bringing in guys that may be able to take his spot because he's not giving them what they thought they were going to get. I personally don't think that Simpson has been given enough of an opportunity to prove he can man that spot. But listen, competition ain't never hurt nobody. And the Ravens love saying it, iron sharpens iron. So if you have two guys that are talented and they're competing for a position, may the best man win. And that's all we've been saying, especially with that offensive line. Bring in competition, and whoever the better guy is, that is the one that you play. Then in the 4th round, the Ravens took offensive tackle Carson Vinson, who's from a small college, but he impressed at the Senior Bowl. Now, this is the guy that they brought in to possibly be that swing tackle. And for me, I'm not really mad at him. Listen, we are 5 picks into the draft, and the Ravens have addressed the offensive line twice. Not saying that they're the greatest of picks that they could have gotten, but at least they're bringing in competition. At least they're trying, in my opinion, to make things a little bit better. Now, Vincent may be a bit of a project, but he has some good traits, he has some good skills. And listen, sometimes if you get proper coaching, you never know what you're going to get out of these small school guys. And before I move on, that brings me to the second time that I just was scratching my head like, what the is going on? Eric DeCosta, I guess he couldn't help himself and is like, listen, it's the later rounds of the draft, people aren't paying attention, let me just do something to do it. And he traded back. He went back 5 picks in the 4th round to move up 5 picks in the 6th round. That's losing value to me, and it didn't make any sense. But it's later in the draft, so I guess it really didn't make that much of a difference. But that was just a head scratcher to me, like, hey, there may have been a guy we could have got with within those 5 picks that somebody else took, but I guess it's neither here nor there. We got who we got. Then in the 6th round, the Ravens picked up cornerback Bilal Coney. To me, when I saw this pick, it signaled, hey, something ain't right in the castle when it comes to cornerback. I understand that is a position that has failed us throughout the history of our organization. We've had too many injuries when it comes to cornerback, but I thought, bringing in a Woozier, we had Jalen Armour-Davis, and everybody was high on TJ Tampa last year. Have we soured on these guys already? But I guess when you have 11 picks, you can just move around the board as you will. But I do think Coney was a solid pick, especially for a 6th rounder. Maybe he can contribute on special teams. I'm not for certain, haven't done much research on him as of yet. Then we get to the next pick, and the Ravens took a kicker, Tyler Loop. Is this the signaling of the end for Justin Tucker? Because in the 29 previous years of the Baltimore Ravens, they have never drafted a kicker. Not even once. This is the first time, the first season, the Ravens have ever drafted a kicker. Now, they could have gotten one in free agency. They could have gotten one after the draft. But they decided, we're going to go in here and draft a kicker because I don't know if they're sure what's going on with Tucker. I don't know if the investigation is going to lead to certain things and Tucker might be suspended, or they just may want to distance themselves from him altogether. But that can't be true because they drafted Mike Green. So, just allegations aren't or shouldn't be enough for them to move on from Justin Tucker. Or could it be the fact that he missed 10 kicks last season? Could it be the fact that they think that he's declining and they need to bring in somebody that could possibly take his place? And then with the Baltimore Ravens 12th 6th round pick, they took LaJohntay Wester. Now, me personally, I don't know about y'all, I was a Colorado fan. And I watched the Buffaloes and I watched Jimmy Horn Jr. And that's who I wanted the Ravens to get. But Wester, he's damn good in his own right, especially for a 6th rounder. Now, he may come in and start off with special teams, but I think just in certain packages, I think that he can contribute offensively, getting some plays sprinkled in here and there. And I think that he's a little more polished than Tez Walker is, and he can possibly beat him out. He may be, in my personal opinion, a little bit better than Tylan Wallace. But don't tell Chris just joking I said that, because I don't want to hear his wrath. You know how those New York guys get about their players, so I don't want no smoke. But I do think that Wester was a decent pick, especially late in the 6th round as they got him. And then that brings me to the 3rd time that I got upset during this draft. Personally, and it's selfishness of me, and it's maybe because one of my kids went to Maryland, the fact that we don't draft players from home, it befuddles me. I'm just at a loss for words because we've let so much talent pass through our fingers that have been right in our backyard. And I thought that the Ravens, especially with the need of defensive tackle, should have drafted Jordan Phillips. I thought he would have made a difference on his team. He can get up there with Matabike, Travis Jones, and do his thing. But the Ravens passed on him. But even in passing on him, I do think that defensive tackle was a need, and the Ravens, I think, should have addressed it a little bit earlier. But I do think that they got a lot of value. I think that they got a sneaky pick when they drafted Aeneas Peoples. And he's already let it be known on social media. Listen, for those of y'all that haven't drafted me, you made a mistake. Because every time I play each and every one of you guys, I'm going to let you know I'm that guy. So I think the Ravens got a good one, especially this late in the draft, even though they waited so long. Because for me, defensive line, especially when it comes to free agency, it's slim pickings out there. Like, there's not much left in the free agent pool when it comes to defensive linemen. And that, to me, may be the signaling that Brent Urban is going to be re-signed by the Ravens. Because if you look at it or you check, there are only guys out there like Maurice Hurst and Taven Bryan. So it's not much out there when it comes to defensive linemen. So I think Brent Urban is going to be re-signed just for the fact that there is not much left out there. Then with the Baltimore Ravens, 201st and final 6th-round pick, they drafted cornerback Robert Longerbeam. I think this is solid value because I know people love value for picks, but I think he may be somebody that can contribute. A lot of these guys fell in the draft and the Ravens went and scooped them up, but for me, the Ravens just draft so many corners and so many of them have not worked out. So now we've taken 2 corners and we brought one in during free agency, and I'm sure that the Ravens are going to bring in another cornerback when it comes to free agency in the last wave, because the Ravens always draft a position and then they free agent it to death. So what does that mean for Jalen Armour-Davis? What does that mean for TJ Tampa? Which one of them is going to be the IR stash? Because you know the Ravens do it every year with certain players. But overall, I think this was a solid draft. And then we get to the 7th round, and the Ravens drafted guard Garrett Dillinger. So the Ravens have taken 3 swings on the offensive line. Hopefully somebody pans out. Hopefully somebody comes in there and gives great competition, because there are still some free agent guys that the Ravens can go and get if these guys aren't ready and they need some time to develop. My thing is strengthen this offensive line. This has been a solid draft. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't expecting this. I thought that it was just going to be a whole bunch of defense and leave Lamar to fend for himself. But the Ravens, they did a decent enough job. And one of the more surprising things for me is they didn't trade Mark Andrews. They didn't trade Odafe Oweh. So they possibly are going to be Baltimore Ravens for the 2025 season. And during this season, the Ravens are trying to accomplish 2 things. One that has never been done before. The first thing is they are trying to win the AFC North for the 3rd straight year. No team since the division's inception has won 3 years in a row. The Pittsburgh Steelers have won it twice in a row. Cincinnati Bengals have won it twice in a row. The Baltimore Ravens have won it twice in a row. But no team has accomplished that feat of winning it 3 times in a row. And the second thing the Ravens are trying to accomplish is they are trying to win the Super Bowl. And the first step in that is beating the division. And it's funny to me because it seems like during the draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals were drafting defense to stop Lamar Jackson. They know they have to stop QB1 if they have any chance at winning this division. And if they see us in the playoffs, they already know what's about to go down. And then the Cleveland Browns are just the Cleveland Browns doing Cleveland Brown things as they always do. Knowing that Deshaun Watson was going to be out for the year, having signed an 80-year-old Joe Flacco, and having Kenny Pickett just take up a roster spot, you knew that the Cleveland Browns were going to draft a quarterback, but you didn't know that the Cleveland Browns were going to have this kind of a folly when it came to the quarterback position. In the 3rd round, they drafted Dylan Gabriel, or whatever his name is, that quarterback from Oregon, and then came back in the 5th round and drafted Shedeur Sanders. Like, what? It makes no sense. But shout out to them for bucking that trend. Shout out to them for stopping the slide, because apparently something was going on with Shedeur, and I do applaud them for putting it into it. And Ravens fans, I know a lot of you are like, hey, it's a division rival. It's a quarterback we don't care about. He's loud, his family. It doesn't make a difference what you think about Shedeur Sanders. This should enrage you, because this reminds me of the time when the NFL colluded against Lamar Jackson. And I mean, it's thankful for us because we were able to keep Lamar on the team, but they tried to stop Lamar's money. They tried to stunt his growth, and they were mad at him because he doesn't speak the Queen's English and he represented himself. And this is what they're doing now. They're trying to put somebody in their place, because whether you like Shedeur Sanders or not, this league is about winning and getting the best players. The draft is all about finding the best players for your team. Now, you may say that Shedeur is not a 1st-round draft pick, but you cannot tell me the 5 quarterbacks or 6, whatever, drafted before him were better. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me a 26-year-old quarterback with injury history was better than him. So shout out to the Cleveland Browns, but y'all still the Cleveland Browns, and I'm not worried about y'all. And I thank you for being a mess of a franchise. Oh yeah, and there was a 4th time that I was upset. I forgot about this. Why the hell are we drafting 11 players? It's really no need. Eric, you said yourself, most of these guys are not going to make the team. Next season, and I know we've pivoted and made some strides when it comes to drafting and doing certain things, but next season, let's try trading up. Let's try not waiting for the guy to fall to us and actually go and getting that dude. But all in all, successful draft. Let's hope that the 2025 season is different than all of the others under Eric DeCosta and Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. So now we have to look forward to May the 14th when the NFL release schedule comes out and we find out which order we play people. We find out if we have any primetime games, and hopefully we have a Christmas Day game that's actually in Baltimore, because I do want them to start the trend of having the Netflix Christmas game with the Baltimore Ravens hosting. I know that they said that they didn't want one team locked in, but if you have Lamar Jackson at the prime of his career, he is a top draw, and I do believe that you want him on your schedule as long as he's going to play. He's been there the last 2 seasons and the ratings were off the charts. So now let's just sit back and wait for the Ravens to do their thing as far as the undrafted free agents go, because you know this is their time of the year that they love finding certain gems to possibly make the team in certain positions and strengthen this roster so we can finally go get this chip.
Nah, man, I'm cool.